Hey there, welcome back to Well-Oiled Operations. Today, we're going to talk about what it really takes to get yourself out of the day-to-day operations. And how long would it take you to completely remove yourself from the business and have it run without you, but as good as it would be if you were actually there? Okay. So I had this question from a client who said, okay, realistically, what are you thinking? I know this is a 6-month program. I'm like, oh, wait, I hope she doesn't think she's getting out of her business in 6 months. So here is what I shared. So first of all, with Well-Oiled, it is a 6-month program where we give you all of the materials you need to get your business running like a well-oiled machine. The question is, will you actually implement it all in 6 months and be completely removed? No, absolutely not. The only way I would say you'd be removed in 6 months is if you came to us where you just needed some fine tuning. Here's what people have to understand. When you want to do something massive in your business, like removing yourself and getting it to run without you, it is going to take time. And what I think, really hurts us as entrepreneurs is we listen to people talking about quick cash and overnight success. And oh my goodness, you can be a millionaire in a year. And I believe you can, but I believe it's going to take work. And I think some people don't want to hear it. They're looking for the easy way out. And let's be honest, if you're a business owner, you know that there is work involved in running a business. So I thought, why not dedicate an entire episode to what it actually takes to get yourself out of a business and how long I actually recommend. Now, here's the deal. When you join Well-Oiled, we have it set up for weekly quick wins where you can start feeling momentum within 7 days. Within 90 days, your business should start to feel very different. And with 6 months, I always tell people, if you're actually implementing our systems and formulas, within 6 months, your business is going to look completely different than it did 6 months ago. But will you be fully removed out of your business? The chances of that happening are, I think, slim to none if you really want to set it up well-oiled, okay? So let's talk about this. Now, first of all, like I said, it depends on where you're at and how much you're currently involved. So some of you might actually only be owning a role or two, and maybe you could be fully out of it in 6 months. Some of you are doing everything. And I am telling you, I don't care who is promising what out there. I do not believe you would get your business up and running in 6 months. I think a year would even be tight, to tell you the truth, okay? If you're doing it all, I'm going to give you some strategies and things you need to start doing, and you're going to very quickly see this is going to take longer than 90 days or 6 months or maybe even a year. Okay, so with that said, I would honestly, in a perfect world, if you had a time frame that would not feel like stressed and pressure and just like a crazy time frame, I would honestly tell you to give it a 3-year timeline. Now, if any of you are like 3 years, that's insane. Well, I haven't worked in one of my businesses in 10 years. Am I grateful that I gave it a 3-year timeline? Yes, because I plan to own that business for another 30 years. So 3 years is nothing when you're talking about building an asset that lasts possibly your entire lifetime. Okay. So if you're thinking that's too long, I don't want to give it that much, I honestly just don't think you're going to get it to the level that we have it at, right? So the fact that I'm not involved in one of my businesses and it is surpassing the year before's revenue, it's getting more profitable. It needs me less and less every single year. Okay. If we're talking about building that, I don't think 3 years is that long. Okay. So just make sure you're not being so unrealistic. Now, could it be done faster than 3 years? Absolutely. But there would be substantial work involved. And I will tell you, if you're looking to get out of your business in a year, we now have a little bit of pressure. There is a timeline. We better act fast. In fact, I'm actually looking to close on something but purchasing something, and we'll be closing, and it is more than 30 days away. And the lawyer that I've been working with said, I know it still feels like we have plenty of time, but we are on a time crunch right now. If we do not get this back from this person by this date, we may not close on the 19th like we're thinking. If you told me I've got a year to get out of my business, I would tell you we're on that time crunch. Like there is no time to be wasted. There is so much stuff we have to get done, which is why I say, if you have the time, let's actually enjoy this, right? Because really, you're going to have the quick wins. You're going to feel different every 90 days. You're going to love your business that much more every single quarter. So why rush it if you have time? And what's funny is when somebody is usually in a rush, it's because they want to sell it. Every business that I have helped try to sell, they go, wow, this is actually pretty good, where I don't know if I want to sell it anymore. Like they're questioning, right, what's happening, because they're like, this isn't as hard as it used to be. And I think I could keep this now. Okay. So anyway, there is definitely some substantial work to be done in most cases I see. It is going to take time to train certain people and develop certain leaders to think the way that you think, to make decisions the way you want it done. You might have systems in your head that have never been written down. You might not even have the people on your team that you need. So now you're talking, we have to go find them, hire them, train them. What if finding the right person takes you 3 months, 4 months, right? You just never know. So that is why I say, like, do not let these gurus act like you're going to have this up and running in 90 days. Like that's just not true. Okay. Now here's the deal. You can train one department year one, and then you can decide to move on to another department year two. It depends if you have a manager or leader already in place. Maybe you already have a marketing leader and they're amazing and there's not much you have to do there. Some of you have been all the leaders in all the departments, and it's going to take you longer. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure you're understanding why this is not a quick, you need 72 days, right? Like that's just not a one size fits all type approach. So here is what I would suggest if you're starting from a place where you are the business and you're doing a lot. That is the majority of the people that come to me, okay? You are the one owning all the things, even if you have a team. So here is what I would do in 8 steps, okay? Step number 1, I would create or refine your current org chart. I would want to see who is doing what and who is reporting to who. This is going to tell you if you actually have managers in place, and you'll be able to see what positions are missing, right? Maybe like who's missing, all of the things. The second piece is I would create a future org chart. So I want to see like what's happening. And then I want to see what's going to have to happen in the next 12 months, okay? You might even go so far as to be like, okay, I think this is going to be the 12-month org chart, probably year 2 and year 3. And year 3, hopefully you're not even on there, or you're just the CEO or the founder, or you're the consultant, okay? So the future org chart, you start to ask yourself, what positions are we going to need, right? Am I going to need a marketing leader? Am I going to need somebody like head of operations? Am I going to start to fill in the blank, right? You're probably going to start to see, wow, I am doing a lot, which is why most of you are not going to get out of your business in 90 days. It's going to take you a little bit of time. Step number 3 is this. And if you're in well-oiled, we just got a massive request for really diving into like a future org chart training. So that is coming in the very near future if you are in the program. And if you're in the program, it's possible by the time this airs, maybe it's already been taught. So definitely talk to your coach and we'll make sure you get access to that. So step number 3 is deciding which part of the future org chart you want to start to delegate first. So I do not suggest giving away too much too soon or hiring too many people. Start with one position. If you decide, oh my goodness, we have no leaders, we need marketing, we need ops, we need fulfillment, do not go hire all 3 at one time. Okay. I would start with one position. I would build up one manager or one leader, and I would have them start to take on the responsibilities and the ownership. I would pour every ounce of my energy into that leader. I would give them so much of my attention. My calendar would be filled just hanging out with them, getting them up and running. Now, here's what you have to realize. You may not have this person on your current team. So something to consider or question is this person here, or do I need to hire? Okay. Don't just make do with what you have. Don't just decide, oh, well, this is who I've got on my team, and I guess she's the best person for the job, or I guess he'll have to make it work. No. You do not want to settle with these hires if you're trying to get out of really running everything. If the right person is not in your company quite yet, don't settle until you find them, which is why it could take you 3 months to find this person, 6 months to find the right person. The wrong person can set you back big time. So don't have the urgency of, I've got to get out of here within a year, because you may get stuck being pulled back in if you let the wrong person in. Okay. And then even what happens is you lose trust in the process that it's even possible. You hire the wrong person, then you think, oh my goodness, this wasn't as easy as Stacy thought, or as Stacy told me. I think I'm just going to have to stay in it and do everything. I have seen this before. You've made the wrong decision to like settle for somebody. And then you're like, oh, it's the formula. No, it's not the formula. It's, deep down that you had red flags you saw and you still like let her on the team or let him on the team. And now we're having problems. Okay. So this process works if you're willing to make the tough decisions. Too many business owners are taking the easy way out. They're staying in their comfort zone. They're not having hard conversations. They're not saying to a team member, unfortunately, we're looking for somebody who's got this experience and you don't qualify right now for this role. You're like, you want the job? Okay, well, let's give it a shot. And of course it doesn't work because they're not the right person. Okay. Step number 4 is you create a clear job description with detailed, like what the role includes, with the responsibilities, with the requirements, meaning like, oh, we're looking for 5 years of marketing experience or whatever it is, right? This is going to help everybody understand what is expected. Sometimes managers aren't leaders yet because they didn't know you wanted them to be. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes your managers aren't leaders because they don't think you want them to be a leader. They think you want to be the boss and just tell them what to do. You're hoping they would come up with a strategy and be more visionary, yet you've never told them. And you probably aren't even showing them when you keep coming up with the strategy, right? When I tell my leaders, I need to see this from you, they do it. Don't expect people to read your minds, okay? The next piece is number 5, putting systems in place in that position. So you can see how if you were to go hire a marketing ops and a fulfillment director immediately, you would be so overwhelmed. Helping create the systems, helping guide them, even if they're creating the systems, which most of the time I have them create it, I still want you approving it. How in the world, like, would you feel confident leaving the business, never seeing what systems were actually put in place with somebody that maybe only has been working for you for 90 days or a year? Right? So you've got to be really, really careful. It's one thing if this person's been here for 10 years and they had systems, but they were in their head and they're just documenting it. It's another if you're expecting them to make it up from scratch. Okay. So that's why I say pick one position, hire, train, pour time and energy into that person, start having them help create the systems, but you're auditing the systems. Maybe this is the person you're delegating to. They can actually do it themselves. But without your input, right, you're still going to want to be checking. You're still going to want to be auditing and expect, like, making sure it's at the level you want. You're also going to want to maybe you want to do it together, or maybe you need to train them on why you're creating the systems. But without the systems, you won't know what's happening when you're not there, right? Things will be inconsistent and you'll be second guessing your decision to delegate. Number 6, once they are owning this role, put into place like an accountability system and have them report on weekly metrics so that you know if this person is winning in this role without you, right? Gradually, you will hold their hand less. If their KPIs, key performance indicators, those are the weekly metrics, if they start to drop, I would get right back in there and say, wait a minute, we got to do this together again. Okay. So those numbers, so every week, and we teach all of this in depth, in detail inside of Well Oiled, every week, I would use those numbers to decide, are they doing well? Right. Now, I will say this, we have had people with amazing KPIs, but we still inspect what we expect. And sometimes we see people when we inspect, we see them with their own system and they're like, well, my system works. And it's like, well, that's great, but we're not here to build out your system. We're here to work our system. So just seeing KPIs is not good enough. You want to inspect what you expect with that team member. Okay. Now they'll need you way more in the beginning. There's more hand holding in the beginning than later. What you put in is what you'll get out. Most business owners don't put in a lot with new hires or new people getting promoted, and then they don't get out what they're hoping for, and then they're upset. Okay. Hire one person at a time. Step number 7 is figure out how often you're going to coach, train, and mentor this leader. Everybody needs coaching, accountability, and support. I am blown away when business owners do not have coaches, okay? Without coaching, accountability, and support, I guarantee you, you are not performing at the level you could be. Everybody, like every amazing NBA player has their own coach, right? I'm watching on Netflix, the golf, I don't remember what it's called, top swing, golf swing. I don't know. It's something with golf. And I really actually find it fascinating because they're very competitive. And I just like watching like how they're thinking and their mindset and all of that. And every one of them is working with a few different coaches in different areas, right? They've got somebody for their swing. They've got somebody in the gym. They've got somebody helping them heal and recover, right? You need a coach. Now, what I need you to understand is if you need a coach, your team members need a coach. You need to figure out how often will you coach them? How often will you train them? When will you mentor this person? Many of you are not mentoring and coaching. You barely have time to give them feedback. And this is a problem. Okay. It's probably why they're not performing at the level you want them to perform at. And then step number 8, you'll start to rinse and repeat this with more and more positions. So you can see that if you're holding on to a lot of roles, this could take some time. You could spend a full year with the head of marketing before you felt comfortable stepping away. You might decide, I'm going to do marketing 1 year, then I'm going to get rid of operations, then I'm going to get rid of fulfillment, or whatever order you decide. Okay. Now, you might get a very competent, very advanced head of marketing, and they don't need you to hold their hand. And they go so fast that 90 days in, you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to start looking at ops, right? It depends on you. It depends on your level of delegation, how good you are at letting go of control. It depends on the person you find, right? There's just so many factors. Now, here are a few strategies to help you in this specific situation. So those were the 8 tips of like, this is what you need to do. And now this is just a little extra love to get you where you need to go. So here's what I need you to know. You really need to let go of control. And this may be very difficult and it may take you so much time. It's possible that you need a 5-year plan because you are so in control of everything you do. And it's going to be hard for you to start letting go and letting other people lead. Okay. Now, yes, you might be better at some things, but it's time for you to train and get this person performing at your level or even at 80% of what it is you're doing. Okay. You need to be giving constant feedback, honest, clear communication that is going to help them improve. And then you need to go watch if they did it. And then you need to give them feedback that they did fix it and you saw it and that's exciting. Or you need to say, hey, I gave you that feedback. I watched again. You still haven't done it. Let's work on it again. Okay. This is not Stacy, I tried and it's not working. I told them once and they didn't do it. The system's not working. No. The system is you have been allowing them to do this for 3 years, 5 years, 20 years. And now we're trying to teach an old horse new tricks. Is it an old dog new tricks? Old dog new tricks. Okay. It's going to take time. You've got to get just like if your kids have been eating like dessert at every dinner, it would take a little bit of time before they would start to understand that dessert does not always come with dinner, right? We have to understand that it's the same way with our team. Okay. Don't expect to get it perfect on try one. You probably didn't get it perfect either. You're forgetting that some of this didn't come naturally to you. Now it totally comes naturally to you and it's so easy. But in the beginning, it probably didn't. And we need to give them just as much time, right? If not way more than what we were able to do. Another thing that I think is really important is a manager is different than a leader. You'll want managers to see what the team is doing. But eventually, you want to build up leaders who can actually lead and come up with ideas and take full ownership of their department. I had a client recently, we were together, and she said, oh my goodness, big realization. My leaders are actually just managers. I didn't know that until I heard this, right? So this is why you can be surrounded by people and still feel like everything's on your plate. And if you feel that way, if you have a team and you still feel a little alone or like everything's on your shoulders, It's because no one is owning these roles. You are still technically in charge, and we've got to change that if we want to get you out of the business, right? Now, the next piece is this is a new skill set. Letting go of control, training, letting somebody else fail and watching them fail and then trying to teach them again. This is not going to be as easy as it sounds. And you may not get it perfect the first time. In fact, you might hire the wrong manager, the wrong leader, and you'll have to do it again. And it might feel like you're taking one step forward and two steps back. It might feel like you're trying to get out of this business, but you're spending way more time right now in the business. And that's true. You're going to have to put in more work to eventually get out. You reap the rewards later, but you put in the effort now, right? Short-term sacrifice leads to long-term success. Some of this stuff is so new to you. So it's normal that it's going to feel like you pulled yourself out a little bit and then get sucked back in. I've had people say, I think I'm doing this wrong because I was out last month and then this month they needed me. I'm like, no, that's totally normal, right? They need you a little bit more and then you just fix whatever that problem is. And then you can kind of get back out again and then something else will happen and they'll need you and right. And eventually they need you less, right? Now, this might feel like a lot of work. Oh my goodness, 3 years, all this training, you're telling me I'm going to have to mess up and I'm going to hire the wrong people. But what is the alternative? You just keep everything on your plate? Because that sounds like way more work if it's permanent. You either can put in this amazing, like solid plan for 3 years and have like you reap the rewards the next 10, 20, 30 years, however many years left you're planning to work, or you permanently get to live in whatever you're doing right now. And I'll tell you, most business owners that come to me, they are overworked, they are underpaid. Honestly, a lot of them don't even like their business. They don't like the people they're working with. They just feel like nobody cares. I would rather have this 3-year plan and know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Than think this is just my life. And I've seen people pick I guess I'll just keep that on my plate. I've seen them pick this permanent path, right? They say it would just be easier for me to do this. However, a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, it's not easier. They're burning out. And it's usually worse because their business is growing. So they have to take on new capacities they didn't even know they could do. And that is where real burnout happens. Did you know that most small businesses in the US are not sold? They just close. Statistically, most businesses are not sold. They are not given down to another generation. A lot of times the next generation doesn't want them. They're like, Mom, you worked way too much. Your life was like you and a computer. I don't want that job, right? Sometimes they take it out of obligation. I actually know somebody that's like a 5th generation owner and they're like, I had to, I'm the only son. I'm the only daughter. Like, I guess I have to do it. They feel obligated. They don't even want it. And what I want you to see is if most just fade, right? At some point, the owner decides, I'm done. And they don't have a sellable business. And they don't have something the next generation even wants. So it just closes. And it's so sad. If something were to happen to me, my businesses are assets. They could actually be sold. Ken could either choose to continue to own them and let somebody else run them, or he could just sell them for a lot of money. Most businesses are not assets. So was it hard work for me to get out of my studios? Oh my goodness, yes. Am I so glad I did it? 1,000 times over. I would have spent 10 years getting out of my business to know that I could have it for the next 30. I actually think it's a little bit of time, a little bit of work for a lifetime of returns. What I did for the first 10 years of my business, because that's how long I was in it. I did it for 10 years. And then the last 10, I have not worked in the business, okay? What I did for the first 10 years, and I worked a lot. I was single for the most part, without children. I worked. However, what I did for just those 10 years will pay me for decades to come. Don't take the easy way out. The easy way out is you keeping everything on your plate. And that is so much harder than getting the business to run without you. When you decide to commit to creating a business that becomes an asset, you'll be doing less of the doing. and more time spent empowering other team members. It's actually one of my favorite things to do is to watch others step up and show what they're capable of doing. Now, removing yourself is a process. It is not an overnight process. Please do not fall into believing that trap. It will take time. So that is why you want to start now. Even if you're like, oh, I think I'll retire in 10 years. Or you don't want the urgency of like, oh my goodness, we got to do this now. It'll be so much harder. Okay. It's never too early to start empowering others on your team. And here's what I'll tell you. When you build a sellable business, it's just more enjoyable. So why would you want to wait 5 more years? Why not do it now? And here's what's funny is if you come in ever thinking, well, I just want to sell this at some point, you might decide, why on earth would I ever sell it? It runs without me and I get a paycheck every other week. Sounds pretty good to me. So I hope this was my version of just like an honest conversation of what it really takes. And I know some of you did not want to hear the things I had to say, but I hope it really hit home to put that urgency on you now of what can you do to just get it started and get the ball rolling. All right. I will talk to you next week. Have a great week, everybody.